How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Black Metal Rebellion. I'm your host, Jesse Morgan, and I'm here to do another review for you today. This time being the band Skroth and the album Skies Over Westeros, which we have here. Now, this band is another one of Desi Dagour Wood's projects from Deathbridge Records. From Lethbridge, Alberta in Canada. It's black metal. Desi has dubbed it dark, noble black metal, more than likely because of the Game of Thrones style and mythos that he throws into this release. Now, he does everything on this. He does all the vocals, all the instruments, minus a couple of tracks like Following the Tide, which features Priest of Enochian, as well as he does some other stuff in that track as well. It's kind of different, but yeah, this is overall a really good album. I definitely recommend you check it out. The vocals are just wretched and gravelly and just rough and aggressive, and I just really enjoyed what he did there. They were performed really well, and they were done just pretty much without struggle throughout the entire thing. And they're very grim, they're very evil sounding, they're raspy, and they just they go for the throat. They go in for the kill, just like the dire wolves. As well, it goes great with the music. Needless to say, it's kind of like almost like a snarling demon spitting sweet, murderous nothings into your ears. And it's just sadistically enjoyable. What can I say? Great vocals, love them, and it suits the music damn good. The guitars, they were also pretty consistent. They were pretty much equal in the mix with everything else. Like the vocals, the guitars, the drumming were all pretty much at the same level, so you didn't have to struggle too much to hear what anything else was doing. The tone of the guitars was pretty decent. Every note was pretty discernible from one from another. However, there is some points throughout a couple of the songs where some of the guitar fade outs cut out slightly quicker or more just more abruptly than seemed necessary or than I would have preferred. But that's just a very minor point in there that would just might have been better, just kind of fade out certain guitar tracks a little smoother and take longer to get to the quiet part. But other than that, it was really good. They were mixed well, they were layered well. There's lots of tremolos in there for sure. There was, like I said, there's some riff layerings just to kind of get that wall of black metal sound. There's some interesting melodies for thrown in there for good measure too. Some crunchy kind of fierce type of guitar parts that were just kind of mixed in, so the consistent tremolos didn't get boring or kind of just make everything seem monotonous. So that was nice that he threw those in there. There's also like some neat and pretty calm, clean guitar parts in there that added to the melody and kind of soothed things a bit. Changed up the pace and kind of just gave it its own flavor for each song, and I enjoyed that for sure. There's a lot of things to listen for when it comes to the guitar and what Desi was doing throughout this album, and it was cool because when you're just a one-man band, sometimes I know for myself, and this Drakir thing, I know I'm kind of switching topics just kind of mid-review, but I'm just kind of giving the guy credit because I know as I'm working on this solo project myself, it's hard sometimes to get inspired. It's hard sometimes to come up with unique riffs, and sometimes you doubt yourself. You're like, fuck, should this really go in here? And and then you start just picking apart your work until you just don't like it. But what Desi did was really good. He mixed tremolos with kind of crunchy guitar riffs. He layered the like melodies and like backing guitar parts with stuff that kind of flow together. And yeah, I just really enjoyed his guitar work on this overall. So that was cool. The beginning of The Reigns of Castamere, which I believe is a cover, was really neat. It's very, like I said, had melodic, clean guitar parts and just kind of helped get into the song. Um, the best guitar tracks, I feel, were Dawn of the Dire Wolf, sorry, and Skroth, The Language of the White Walkers. Now the drums, they were programmed again, but it's you got to use what you got, right? And with Skroth, he used some program drums again. They didn't sound too like digital. They didn't sound too unhuman uh, for the most part. I mean, there was like the first song and a bit of the second, the drums were kind of mixed a little high and they were kind of a little overpowering. But as the album kind of progressed, they kind of dropped down to a normal volume, and it wasn't like a drastic drop either. It's just you kind of notice by the time you're at the end of the album, you're like, oh, okay, well everything seems calm and normal and proper mixed and at a level where it's not as abrasive as the very first song. Like that's the only problem, or sorry, the only song that I found that problem in was "Skies Over Westeros," the first track. The drums just kind of come in, and you're like, wow. um, but needless to say, they weren't bad. The programming was good. Where the parts were placed in each song made sense. It fit what the guitar was doing. It fit the mood of the song and the mood of the riff at the time. There's plenty of blast beats, plenty of double kicks. Like there's just like the double kicks just sound like a machine gun. Like it was pretty intense sometimes. The snare had a decent sound. I like the sample that was used for the snare sound. Just sometimes you get good ones, sometimes you don't. But luckily enough, in this release, it was a decent snare sound. So I'm glad to hear it because sometimes you get a bad snare sound, it can really put off an entire album. Um, let's see what else we got here. There is some interesting cymbal rides and other cymbal usages in here that was pretty good. Um, there were some tom fills and just things that he used in there. It was kind of neat too, because when you do one man projects, it's easy to get caught up and what you're doing guitar wise or whatever your main specialty is. It's easy to get focused in on that and just concentrate more on spicing that up as opposed to doing something with a different instrument. So I gotta give him credit for what he did with the drums, with like the tom fills and the cymbals and different like intricate little kind of beats that he threw in there when the song didn't kind of just ask for just straight blasts or double kicks and that kind of thing. So what he did there was good. I think he utilized it really well for what he had. On that note, though, I would feel sorry for any live drummer that would have to be hired to do Skroth stuff in like a stage setting, because holy shit, their arms and legs would fall off. His songs would definitely demand a lot from the drummer if he was to get a live one. Now there was some section of keyboards in there. I don't know if I mentioned that. I think I did at the beginning. There's the occasional kind of keyboard section, but it's not too overpowering. It's not too abrasive. It's not too kind of full of itself and being like the front and center stage of the music. It was kind of pulled back and just added what it needed to add to the songs. And I'm glad they were there, because if they weren't, it probably would have suffered a bit. It probably would have felt a little empty, especially if you've already heard it with keys, and if he decided to re-release this without keys, I think you would notice it would feel a little hollow. So I'm glad Desi added those in. Kudos, man, for deciding to throw those in there. And as Game of Thrones and the Westeros thing and just that kind of mythos, it kind of seems like it would need more of a grandiose kind of epic feel, and I feel that the keyboards kind of did that. It added like nice ambience and a nice atmosphere there. They weren't too complicated or just derivative of themselves. It complemented the songs well, and it made for just a fuller, just kind of thicker song and album. You know, it was great. Made for some really neat and moody intros and outros as well. So it's not just like a start, stop, go kind of straightforward black metal kind of song structure. So that was cool. My favorite songs on the Skies Over Westeros release were Dawn of the Direwolf, Skroth, The Language of the White Walkers, and Brothers of the Night's Watch. Now that's not to say that the other songs weren't good. Like Skies Over Westeros was good. The Reign of Castamere cover was really good. I've enjoyed the bonus tracks, being Follow the Tide featuring Priest of Enochian, which is a pre-Skroth promo single. You can see on here where I'm reading from. There. And then the last one, which is Tower of Orthanc, and then Following the Tide, a pre-Skroth demo track. So that's really cool. I'm glad he added those. It was kind of neat to see how Skroth kind of started and what it began as. And yeah, those are some nice additives to this 5-track album. So good stuff. But yeah, my favorite tracks were definitely number 3, 4, and number 2. So give those a shot. If anything, I would just say listen to the whole damn thing. But yeah. Now my overall thoughts on this, as a fan of Game of Thrones myself, I love the idea in general. It's a very fun and black metal tribute, very epic, kind of Game of Thrones mythos additive. Desi, Desi definitely did it justice. Right from the first track, Skies Over Westeros, sorry, he builds this kind of dark, easy feeling of dread and destruction to come, and then he just blasts you with a full out assault, guaranteed to send any wildling on the run. And you know, this album, it lets you know you're never safe in the Seven Kingdoms, and I certainly can't wait to hear more from the Black King, Lord Dagor, the next time he decides to take the Iron Throne. And on that note, I'm Jesse Morgan, and I would buy this album. Cheers, my friends. Stay sick.